theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Rong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
I look forward to this every Tuesday. Good afternoon, Suzy Rong.
Good afternoon, Warren. You know how it makes sense that we would enjoy happy stories, but what does it mean when we get sucked into dark stories?
Oh, and did we get sucked in to dark stories this time around? I tell you what, Suzy, it was very dark, but also very important and very serious that we watched it. We are talking about the docuseries. Is that what you say? Docuseries?
That's right.
Docuseries Never Let Him Go, and they certainly didn't let it go. What was it about, Suzy?
It was the year 1908 when gay American mathematician Scott Johnson was found dead at the bottom of a cliff in Sydney's northern beaches. The police determined that Scott had died of suicide, even though the area was known to be a gay beat at a time when gay bashings were common. It is also highly unusual that anybody would kill themselves naked, but the cops simply closed the case and made it go away. In the new 4-part documentary series Never Let Him Go on Disney+, we see that Scott's brother, however, had different ideas. Steve Johnson became rich as a tech entrepreneur in 1996, and when he heard about retroactive investigations in the early 2000s that related to gay murders in 80s Sydney, it became clear that Scott's death fit a pattern, and there was little doubt that Scott did not fly off that cliff voluntarily that fateful day. Never Let Him Go traces a journey that takes us all the way to 2022, when Scott's family finally finds meaningful resolution. It is a long journey, almost 35 years worth of intrigue and intense emotion, all adding up to a documentary that proves a very compelling watch. This is not the first time Australian viewers are encountering these stories that relate to those dark days of gay violence. SBS made Deep Water in 2016, and you can still find both the documentary and the drama series of Deep Water on the SBS platform. But Never Let Him Go offers a new level of intimacy with unrestricted access to the family of a specific victim. It is gripping drama at its finest and brings up important issues pertaining not only to homophobia and its consequences, but also about law enforcement and corruption in this country. Anyone with a passion for justice will find this series irresistible. We'll try not to spoil it for you, but there are some unexpected revelations at the end that certainly blew my mind. The 4-hour series felt like a mere 90 minutes to me, and I highly recommend it. Stream Never Let Him Go on Disney+. Warren, isn't it weird that something so awful can be so good to watch?
Yeah, it was so good to watch, Suzy, and I almost feel like it's compulsory viewing for everyone in our community. It was great to watch, but really emotional, a very respectful documentary or docuseries I found, Suzy, and it reminds us of a time, and it is dark, when there were so many gay bashings, so many killings. We had HIV to deal with, and the stigma associated with that. I mean, our community was pummeled constantly, and this documentary, I suppose, drills into that, but in particular the death of this poor guy and the fact that it was just dismissed by the law authorities during such a heightened time of violence towards our community. I mean, you can see that it was just easy to write it off as a suicide.
Yeah, but the documentary also kind of had very gently implied that there might have been some corruption going on, because it just made no sense that the cops. Yeah, I think for legal reasons they weren't able to say things explicitly. I imagine that they had to protect their own protect themselves from being sued in how they tell the story. But it did give enough for us to be able to see the hint that there might have been some corruption going on, because it made no sense that it was written off so easily. Although I guess if we imagine all the people in control at the time were so deeply homophobic, maybe it really played on that level, that they saw us queer people as dispensable.
I just found it astounding that so many gay men were disappearing, and in a particular location as well, why that didn't ring alarm bells in the law enforcement agencies. Like, why didn't they just say, hey, there's a pattern here, anyone can see it? Why didn't that happen?
I think when you think of some people as being less than you, you kind of develop a blind spot, don't you? You think that they are unimportant, so you just don't care. And when you don't care, it becomes something that is so easily ignored, whether intentionally or not. I think maybe what you see in these documentaries is how these prejudices form these sort of unintended consequences, you know. We don't imagine all the cops are out there facilitating gay bashings, but because I think some of our prejudices are so deep ingrained that we don't even know the harm that we're causing, you know, like with the freaking referendum last weekend that kind of showed us who we are. And I don't think many of us walk around intending to be harmful to First Nations people, but we don't understand the depth of the harm that's caused, you know, without us being fully aware of what's happening.
That's right, and we're playing with the lives of people in minority groups, and that's what happened in this documentary. I love the fact, and I think it's one of the best documentaries done, where you really do, and you said this, you get exposure to the family, and they paint the whole picture of what you basically, you feel like you know these people and you know this person because they do it so well. They build it up. They talk about their relationships. I love his brother. I mean, how dedicated to try and find out who killed your brother, and still 30 years on, you know, you still will not let it go. Amazing loyalty, amazing dedication. What a brilliant man.
Yeah, it was good to see. And it was good to see what kinship looks like, because he made it look so like natural, like he made it look like he had no choice. It wasn't a thing of him being really diligent about the investigations or anything. It was just a thing that sat with him, and it just became part of his life, the way that, you know, his brother was always part of his life and in death. And in death, Scott just sat with Steve the whole time, especially when for 35 years the death was unexplained, and it was part of Steve's life, and we saw how it became, I guess, a burden, and fortunately, because he struck it rich, he was able to, make things move in ways that many of us can't in normal lives. And then, and we have the benefit of witnessing justice come to fruition.
And I think that's one of the frustrations that I felt watching it was, he did strike it rich, and therefore had the resources to do something about it. But had he not had that, this would have gone unsolved, and this killer would not be punished. And I find that really sad and frustrating.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call myself a real Buddhist, but I believe in karma. And the last episode was incredibly powerful for me when we finally get to see the killer, and the revelation of what that person was to the family and to me was so different from what we imagined him to be. And in some ways I feel like even if the law didn't catch up with him, he was just suffering anyway. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve the punishment. He certainly did, but we already saw him from the first sort of shots of when they found this person. I'm like, this person has been miserable ever since.
Yeah, I won't spoil it anymore. But one thing I do want to say, Suzy, is, and I found this quite sad. I couldn't stop thinking about Scott, the man who died, and such an intelligent, such a smart man, and world leading in mathematics, to the point where he probably, and they say this in the documentary, would have changed things for all of us, would have made a huge difference to us. Who knows what? It might have been in pharmaceuticals. It could have been anything. We don't know. But that potential was chopped off. Because of all this bigotry and all of this hatred and all this stigma, all this that goes on towards our community. So if that didn't exist, imagine how much better things would be, not only for us, but for everyone.
Yeah, and we don't even have to think about queer people that got killed. Like so many of us have had all the potentials that we have just kind of dampened or taken away because we have for many years been, underestimated and not given opportunities because they saw us as being different, as being less than. So, they might not have killed us literally, but we see it happen all the time that, we get passed over for job promotions and things like that simply because they don't see us as being, quote unquote, a good fit. You always hear that, a good fit to the company culture, for example.
We are talking about the docu-series Never Let Him Go, which is now streaming. When I did my first degree at uni, Suzy, someone, I don't know, this I can't remember what the situation was, but this girl didn't like me and she goes, you know what I don't like about gays? You think the world owes you everything. Now, I'm talking early 90s, this was said to me. And I don't know, after watching this documentary, I want to grab her and I want to say to her, you know what? You do. You owe our community everything because this is the situation that we've all grown up in and we don't deserve it. We deserve to be treated better. So I want to end this conversation on that note, Suzy. How's that?
I think a lot of people don't understand the depth of these things. Like they always say that, we make such a big deal out of our rights, and whether
we do.
I'm speaking from a perspective of not just as a queer person, but also a person of color, etc. There is like when people are in positions of privilege, they don't understand what it's like to not be in those positions of privilege and power. They think of it as being a small thing, but for us, we see in this documentary especially, it kind of controls everything that we experience, especially if you were born in the wrong time.
Definitely. Suzy Wrong, great chat. What's our homework for next week?
Next week, we go to Belgium with the movie Close, available on Stan. It's a story about two 13-year-old boys who are so close, they make everyone question their relationship. It won a ton of awards earlier this year, so I can't wait to share this with you when I see you next Tuesday.
Thank you, Suzy. See you then. That is Close on Stan. Suzy will be back next Tuesday, 5 o'clock.